One of the scariest things that a person can experience is when another human being, driven by obsessive tendencies, threatens to put their life in harm's way. With this in mind, here are 3 true creepy stalker stories. About a year ago in my final semester in college, I worked at a department store in the mall. I didn't have a car yet, so I asked for day shifts because it was a 2-hour bus ride back home. So basically, if I had a closing shift, I'd get done at 11 but not get home until 1 a.m. But sometimes I'd be given closing shifts, much to my annoyance, since I had a 6:45 a.m. class and my mother's worry, because who wants their kid on a public transport that late? My managers, being the jerks that they were, gave me a week of closing shifts, knowing my situation. I was pissed, but whatever. One night, I had just finished my shift, got on the bus, and I sat in the back. I was minding my business when my iPod died. I was annoyed, but I just kept my earbuds in and occupied myself while playing a crossword on my phone. About 2 seats behind me, I hear these guys speaking Spanish. Now, my stepmother is Puerto Rican, so while I understand a fair bit of Spanish, I don't speak it. So I hear them talking, but I don't pay attention because it's rude to eavesdrop and all, until they say, "That black girl up there." Then my ears perk up. I keep my earbuds in so they think I can't hear them, and I continue listening. What they're saying is horrific. To paraphrase, they knew my stop. Second to last one before the bus gets back to the terminal, and while my stop is at the front of my neighborhood, it's got no street lights, and at this time of night, empty. And to put it simply, we're planning on snatching that piece of ass up. I was about 20 minutes away from my home, so I knew I had to act quickly. Since I knew they could see me, they were 2 seats behind me, but like a cross, if that makes sense. I pretended to play on my phone, oblivious while I was actually texting my mom. "Mom, can you please meet me at the bus stop?" 5 minutes go by, no answer. We're getting closer to my stop, so I decide to call her. No answer. I call the house phone and she finally answers. It's about 12:30 a.m., so she was asleep. I try to talk as cheerily and calmly as I can. This was our convo. "Hey Mom, did you get my text?" No. What's up?" "Oh, I sent you a picture of these jeans I'm gonna order online when I get home. I really need your opinion, so I really need you to look since the sale ends at 1 a.m. She gets the hint that I need her to look at her cell, so I say goodbye and hope for the best. We get to my stop, and I see my mom's car. I snatch my shit up and hightail it off the bus. I don't even look behind me to see if they're following me. I jump in the car and tell my mom to just go. I look in the rear view and I see the guys staring at the car. The next morning, I called my job and told them I quit. No more public transport for me. Thanks to my stepmom for teaching me Spanish. Thanks to my mom for getting the hint. Weird Spanish-speaking guys, let's not meet again. A little backstory. I'm a 20-year-old short petite female working at Subway, and I can't help but be nice to anyone even if they creep me out. I feel bad usually. About a year ago, we had this guy 35 to 40 years old who would come in every day for lunch. He was fascinated by my stretched ears and few piercings I had on my face and always asked questions. He would sit down after I rang him out and watch me from his table for 2 hours non-stop, just staring at me while I helped other customers. This goes on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask me for my number, saying he has plugs and tunnels he wants to give me and see me wearing them in my ears, and I always politely declined. One day, I'm alone in the store because my manager had to run to the bank. We were really slow that day, so I was just in the back room messing around on my phone. I heard the door chime, looked up, and yet no one was there. Then I saw the man walk past the front of the store really quickly, like he was in a hurry. The store phone rings. "Thanks for calling Subway. How can I help you?" "This is the girl with the nice ears, right?" Yes. Who is this?" "Are you alone in the back room right now? Are you working by yourself?" At this point, I really got creeped out and knew it was him. I hung up and texted my manager the situation so she would hurry back. He called again, this time asking me very weird questions like what would I do with him in a room with the door locked, if I had a boyfriend, why I was playing hard to get, etc. My manager gets back and I tell her everything. In the middle of the lunch rush, he calls again. This time my manager answers, and to this day she never told me what he said, but the look on her face made my spine shiver. She told me if he called again or showed up here, she would call the police. I thought that was the end of it, but alas, I was wrong. 1 week later, I'm clocking out and getting ready to walk out to my car, parked in the front. When I look outside, I see him standing by my car and looking inside of it. I was an idiot and left a back door unlocked. I watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in my fucking car. My manager locked the front door of our store and called the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of my car, and he was arrested. On him was a butcher knife, rope, and a rag with chloroform on it. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would probably be dead right now. Yesterday I got a message on Facebook Messenger from a guy that I used to be an acquaintance with 3 years ago. This acquaintance became a really creepy stalker. He somehow found my Facebook even though I never told him my last name, and even if I did, I know he still wouldn't have been able to find me. "Hey, how are you? You're still so pretty since the last time I saw you. Why are you ignoring me? Are you ready to give me a chance?" Those were the messages he sent me last night. When I was 17, I used to work at a van store in the mall. Creeps were pretty common. A lot of older men would come in and make me uncomfortable in various ways by asking for my number and if I had a boyfriend, and sometimes touching my lower back or gripping my arm. And I mean men in their mid-40s most times. At the time, I didn't have a boyfriend, since I had no interest in relationships, so I would just tell them that I wasn't ready for a relationship and proceed to excuse myself from them in the nicest way possible not to affect my job. But this one guy comes in. He was 23 and he seemed cool. cool enough to be a friend, and his name was Eli. He too worked in the mall, and he would come in the store often just to say hi. He had many insecurities about himself, and I thought that he just needed a friend or someone that could emotionally support him. But in turn, he had feelings for me, and maybe after 2 weeks since he met, he would continuously insist that we should go on a date, and after I softly rejected him, things took a turn for the worse. There were times that I would be on break, and I would just be walking around the mall, and I could see him pacing behind me at a distance. Every corner I took, he was still there. Sometimes I would go into the store and leave after a few minutes would pass, hoping he was gone, but he would be lurking on a bench a few stores down. One time, he was getting closer and closer to me as I sped walk to the food court. I went into a restroom and just hid out until my break was almost over. My team members would tell me about how much he would come into the store and ask for me. He would ask for my schedule and they would refuse to tell him, making him angrier. He would text me continuously asking if I would give him a chance, and that I was a horrible person because I didn't give him one. He insisted that I was all he ever wanted and threatened he would follow me home one night from work so he could know where I lived. I wasn't really afraid, just angry, and I was considering threatening him, but I didn't really know who he was, so I didn't try. After about a month of the harassment, I told him that him and I would never be together and that I would call the police if he kept stalking me, and I proceeded to block him. After that, I didn't see him much around the store, and when I would go on break, so I was at ease and felt safe again. About 1 week later, I was walking around the mall and I called an Uber to take me home after my closing shift since the buses weren't running. I was still pretty new to Uber since I used the bus mostly. It was late around 11 p.m. and I was tired. My app said the Uber had arrived. It was a newer Toyota Corolla like in the description. So I approached the car. I found it weird how the Uber didn't have the glowing stand that displays its brand on the dash, but I figured maybe there was a sticker somewhere on the car instead. I opened the door and the lights didn't turn on. I paused for a moment and asked if this was my Uber. No reply. At that point, I was feeling a fight or flight response since I wasn't comprehending the situation. I noticed there was a guy in the back seat across from me, and I automatically figured I had the wrong car. I nervously said sorry, and the guy in the driver's seat nodded his head as I was about to get my head out of the car. The guy in the back seat lunged at me, trying to grab, and I just fell backwards onto the ground out of shock. I could see his face and figured more clearly, and it was undoubtedly Eli the Stalker. I scrambled up and back into the mall as fast as I could without looking back, and once I was in there, they were gone. I never shook as violently as I did that night. I was so disturbed that I canceled my Uber ride and waited for my dad to get me. Shortly after that, I stopped working in the mall, and I never saw him again. The fact that he is messaging me now inspired me to share this. I blocked him, and I hope he doesn't somehow find me again. Let's not meet.